Hey, welcome to the Grow for Show. I'm Shweedu. Thank you for joining me today. It seems to be just me today, so bear with me. Kind of doing a show on flour and how to prep for it, and what to expect, and what to hopefully not see. That being said, I'd like to give you a quick reminder for the giveaway we're hosting. Free pack of Arise beans by Irie Genetics. All you gotta do is find the post on Instagram, tag five friends, follow Cause I Love It, and Shooby Doo, and the Grower Show, and you are automatically entered. We'll be announcing the winner at the end of this month. Ooh, probably next episode or the episode after. Probably just doing the spin wheel probability. Seeing as there's so little entries. That being said, you have a better chance of winning. Now, a little recap of what's going on in my garden. Currently, I have I call it the neighborhood grow. Um, it's pretty much coming to an end. I have the 8K39, the CBD hash plant in there as well. They'll finish first. They're being chopped probably this weekend. And then in the next coming days and the week to follow, it'll be probably going Space Force, Storm Shadow, and then after that, probably I think it's Scarlet Begonias, Dark Hollow, and Dragon Punch. So it's going to be kind of a routine of chopping the next couple weekends, I guess you'd say. That being said, I'm today in this episode I'm going to kind of go over what I do in flour, how to kind of prepare, what do I look for, kind of the time spans on which I'm going to tackle said chores. I'll start off with when I flip the flour. Uh, if you don't know what I mean by this, I mean I'm changing the light schedule from 18 to 6, 18 lights on, 6 hours off, or 24 hours depending on what you want to do. Personally, I do 18 to 6. Saves on the hydro, saves my bulbs a little bit. Even though LEDs will last a hell of a lot longer than HPS or HID, it's still good to give them a little rest. They'll last longer for you. So I'll go from 18:6 to 12 and 12. 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Uh, Little tip, make sure you coordinate with your schedule. Don't put the lights on when you're not home and have to work in the dark, because if you have to turn the lights on for any reason during flower period, dark cycle, you have the potential to throw off the plant and cause it to either stress out or the dreaded herm, which is actually just intersex traits showing, which is just if you're trying to grow seeds, and even if you are trying to grow seeds, that's not the pollen you want to use. A plant that has intersex traits will most likely just carry the Hermy gene on. You'll have to breed out of it. And that being said, it's a lot of work. If you're into breeding whatsoever, follow Operation Grow on every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're actually doing a breeding project. I'm a part of it. Pete's there, Lefty, Underground Organics, Cascadian, Raptor. It's kind of an in-depth science, like data in the background. It follows it very heavily, and it's if you're a beginner or even intermediate, it's a lot of information to take in. That being said, it's going to give you let's just say, no BS version of breeding. It's a lot of work, a lot of note taking, a lot of science behind it, and you have to note everything. Cheers, Boom Farms. Thanks for tagging along. We got 5 minutes to the 7:10. If you're in chat, let us know what you're puffing on. I just before the show was puffing on some sour diesel uh, on a vape cart. It's not bad. I got like I said, a weekend to chop the plant down, and a couple weeks for drying, a couple weeks for carrying. So I actually have some of my own stuff to smoke again, which I'm looking forward to. It's been 5 weeks, so I was supposed to get a shipment from Cuz today. Little something to hold me over, and Canada Post sucks like always. Um, Cheers. So back in the flower. Um, so when I do initially flip, I will go through my plants and I will take off every big fan leaf with a purple pedal on it. And what I mean is you have your branch, your main stalk, your branching. Any leaf that just has a stem that goes not to a node point, just goes to the stalk itself or the lateral branching. That's purple. I will take off. If it's blocking light, I'll take it off. At this point, I will be sure to clean the legs, as I explained in the previous episode about how I will the first third of the plant clear it off depending on the light penetration. Um, if I'm doing a trellis, I will make sure it's fully enveloped in stalks and lateral branching to make sure I'm getting the most use out of it. And if I'm not running a trellis, I will just, like I said, de-leaf, do any of the last little bending I can, and I'll be sure to bend, or snap and twist the stalks. What I mean by that is I'll take my hands, grab the stalk at the base, grab above it, do a little twist. You feel like a knuckle popping. Hear that noise? Sometimes it makes a noise, sometimes you just feel it. This is going to help with the stretch. And what I mean from stretch is when a plant goes from vegetative state to a flower state, it's their hormone changing. It causes it like any other human being. Puberty, essentially, you're going to grow rapidly. You're going to stretch for that light. And the farther the distance from the light to the canopy is, the bigger that stretch is actually going to be for the most part, is what I've generally noticed. Some strains will stretch more so than other ones. Other ones will stretch for 10 days, 14 days and stop. Some will stretch for 21 days and then stop. So indica dominant plants will generally only stretch about 50% extra. So from the total height of the plant, we'll add 50% of that, even a little bit more so. Sativa dominant plants will actually, I've seen it at as much as double in size, 2.5 times the size. Cheers, Ollie. Thanks for joining. So when it comes to dealing with stretch, when I flip a plant, well, first off, the way I personally do it to determine when I flip a plant is I'm going to see how much headroom I have. If it's the first time I'm running the plant, I'm going to give it ample space to stretch because I don't know how it's going to react. Like I said, some plants will stretch on me a little bit. Some plants will stretch a hell of a lot. So going based on that, we'll say it's a new strain. I don't know how much it's going to stretch. I'm going to leave probably 2/3 of my space for stretch and light room. That being said, if I have a 6.5 foot tent, I'm going to leave 3 feet minimum for my stretch. So that plant, including the pot, is going to be 2 feet when I flip it. Now, if it's not bushy enough, I will keep topping it and kind of bending it, working the training, making sure I have enough branches. It looks the way I like it to eventually flip the flower, as long as I'm within that height requirement. For every grow, it's going to be different. And I mean, for height wise, I know some people will have way more head space than I do. If you're going in a room itself, you should have more head height than I do. I'm going in a tent, so that automatically limits it. It's one thing I actually didn't take into account for when I first bought my tent, how much space I would have, and I actually lucked out because my ducting for my basement where my tent sit is right above it, and there's maybe a half inch of space clearance. So if I wanted to go bigger, I couldn't. But if I had a choice, I would probably lean towards an extendable tent. I know Gorilla Tent has one, or Gorilla Grow tents. They start off as 6 feet, and then just poles you add in, they'll make go up to 10 feet. It's very handy. Something I wish I would have thought of beforehand. So we'll say week 1, week 2 of flower. I've stripped the plants down. I've pop and twisted the stems. Now I will go in every 3 days, 7 days in a different location, pop and twist as I go up. So the first day I started right at the base of the stalk. So here's my soil line, my medium line, I grab it. I start there. Next time I'm going to start in between. So I'm not cracking the same point. Like I said, it's going to help with your stretch if you have a very sativa dominant plant. If it's an indica plant, I will continue to snap and twist the plant. That being said, I won't go as hardcore with it because I know I'll generally have enough room. I mostly deal with indicas, my personal growth, so I'm used to this. This is actually the first time I'm doing a lot of sativas or sativa dominant strains, and I was lucky to make sure I had the headroom height. It wasn't the first time I got caught off guard, but I wasn't going to have it happen with these these genetics. I wanted to make sure everything was pretty much in line. So week 2, week 3 is going to be when your stretch stops, and that's when you're really going to start noticing the bud sets start developing in. What I should have noted is about 7 to 10 days into the first this is feminine seed and it up next my plant if I haven't already sexed it beforehand. What I mean by that is I'm going to check for either the beginning of pollen sacs developing or the beginning of a calyx with pistils coming out of it. So if you see balls forming, it sounds sexist, but it's a male. If you see more of a teardrop shape with 2 little white hairs coming out of it, it's going to be a female plant. That being said, that does not guarantee that that female plant is not going to show intersex traits later on down the road. So my general thumb is, even though I'm in there pretty much nightly checking on the plants, every 7 days I will thoroughly go up and down each plant. If I'm doing a lot of plants at once, oh, allergies. If I'm doing a lot of plants at once, I will be sure to kind of stagger them. So I'll do one row of plants. So I'll thoroughly check that one day, and then 7 days or 3 days later, I'll check the next row, and then 3 days later, I'll check the next row plus the first row. So I'm kind of alternating everything. I'm not sure if you can hear it in my voice, but my allergies are killing me today. Nothing's working. It's kind of first day of summer was yesterday, and nature's doing this thing, pollen everywhere. So if I sneeze, I'm sorry. So we've sexed the plant. We've dealt with the stretch. We've got ample room for the light to grow. The reason we want to deal with the light and make sure we have enough headroom for it is if you don't, you can actually heat stress your plants and or bleach your buds. Now, you're probably asking what bleach buds if you're an amateur growing or you're new to this, and if even if you're going to be growing and you aren't aware that this could happen. I actually first grow I did it. I had one plant grow right into the light. It's a Bruce Banner, and the first inch and a half of the plant was white. There was no chlorophyll left in it. It was burnt out. Um, some people call them hash tips because it looks like it's so frosty. It's actually not the greatest smoke. It's called hash chips because it's used for processing hash. No one wants it if you know what it is. If you're kind of new to the game and you see it, you might think it's like, oh my god, it's a crazy, crazy crystal covered plant. No, it's just burnt. Hold on a second, I'll be right back. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. It was driving me nuts. I refused to kind of do the old on screen. Um, so light space hash tips. That's where we left off. Oh, cheers, Jerber. Thanks for joining us. So we have week 3 of flower is when you're really going to see the bud site development really occur. The pistils. You should be aware of what sex the plant is by this point. If you're not, odds are the male has probably already pollinated your crop. And I hate to say it, but yeah, you fucked up. If you haven't fucked up yet, and you are on top of checking the plants regularly, and everything seems healthy, you might notice your plants will show a little bit sign of deficiency, probably in phosphorus, because it's such a not a shock to the system, but they're using more of the phosphorus and the potassium versus the nitrogen. Uh, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but a plant will generally gather 80% of the nitrogen for its lifespan in the vegetative state. So even though you're probably feeding a little bit of nitrogen still in the flower cycle, that's only to kind of keep its appetite, not really adding more to it. It if probably about week 5, week 6, I actually cut out my nitrogen in the plant minus the CalMag, which will go to week 6, maybe week 7, It's a 10-week strain. But generally by week 7, I am running nothing but pure pH water, or a cleanser, or a flushing agent of some sort. Now, before we get into the argument, and it's always an argument of flushing, let's go back a couple weeks. We just finished week 3. So week 4, you're going to start noticing the plant is, you'll be able to see the bud structure and how it's going to perform for the most part if you know this plant. If you don't know the plant, you'll really have to learn it at this point. You'll see if it's going to be a bigger stacking plant or if it's going to be kind of on the thinner side. So, for instance, my Golden Goat S1 that produces footballs, the hairs on it are really stout, and it does an incredible job of like essentially. Sorry, someone's calling me. It does a great job of showing you what's going to happen to the plant later on. In compared to every other plant I have in my garden, the Golden Goat flowers early on in week 3, week 4 are drastically larger, pistils included, than any other plant I personally grow. The shocker this time around was the Scarlet Begonias. It didn't have the biggest pistils, but with the one pheno is actually having this giant donkey dick on it. And if you don't know what I mean by donkey dick, it's a term I use for a big cola, and yeah, it suits the name. We're 2 minutes away from 4:20, so if you're watching the show and you haven't packed a bowl yet, I would suggest packing a bowl and getting ready. Even though I called it, I missed the 7:10. I'm sorry. I'm human. Shit happens. I'm stoned. So now we've dealt with week 3, week 4. Week 5 is when I generally start like really enjoy taking pictures of the plant. You'll start seeing it frost out more so. If you What I'll generally do is, I'm not sure how everyone else does it. At week 4, week 3, week 4, anything lower on the plant other than where you see the massive light penetration occurring. So if I use the SF4000, I get roughly 12 to 18 inches of light penetration with it. If the light is currently a foot and a half, 2 feet off, so it's pretty much at the ceiling level, and my plants go about 4 feet in the air. So we'll say it's a foot away. So about 12 inches into that, I will get light penetration. Anything I've stripped on the shave legs that now has buds growing on it, I will strip off. They're called suckers. They'll actually take away from the plant producing up top. So instead of it forming this nice solid big coals on top, you'll get these little tiny popcorn buds on the bottom that just won't do much. So I'll generally strip those at week 4, week 3, week 5. Continually keep doing it because they'll keep kind of growing back. You can pinch them as well. If you pinch them hard enough, they'll stop them from growing. It will try and fix them a little bit, but it won't necessarily add more to it. It's a rule of thumb: anytime you deal with a flowering plant, do not mess with the pistils too much. They'll go crinkly and like dark. And what happens when those white pistils coming out will actually develop and form the bud that you want to smoke. It's part of it. So you want to have those intact and let them run their full course to get a fully stacked rock hard bud. Um, so week 4, week 5, like I said, I'm just doing those suckers on the plants, trimming those off. Any big fan leaf on top with a purple petiole, I'm taking out as it goes. Anything that's discoloring. By week 5, I expect to see a lot of fading of not a lot, but the start of fading for the green in the plant. So the chlorophyll is going to start leaving the plant. Week 6, it's going to be, if I had photos, I could show you. For instance, my 8K 39 plant. Week 6, most of the leaves were yellow, but it had these purple highlights all on the edges. And some of the leaves will go fully purple if it's cold enough, or even like a dark black. That being said, like if you notice it going super purple, like stems and all really early, you might be lacking in phosphorus or potassium. You might want to They're both crucial in the flowering stage. That's one thing you focus on feeding. It's probably the P and the K, the NPK. Uh, as I said earlier, nitrogen's not so much important. It's still needed slightly, but it's gotten 80% of it throughout the vegetative cycle. So you're just kind of topping it up. Oh, cheers. 2 minutes late. Give you 2 minute warning. We're 2 minutes late. I apologize. So from week 5, week 6, like I said, I'm just doing the suckers. I've stripped any big leaf off, kind of going decayed or just doesn't look photogenic at this point because for the most part, I'm leaving the leaves on at this point for just getting the last of the nutrients out of them. Week 7, week 8 is when I'm going to start doing my cleanser and my flush. It's specific. Strain specific. Um, so, like I said, if it's a longer flowering plant, I'll still be giving nutrients at this point, probably until about week 8. But I usually do 8, 9 week plants. So I tend to focus on nutrients up to 6.5 weeks, 7 weeks, then start my flushing period or my cleanser. When I say, oh, cheers, Ian. When I say flushing, I do not mean trying to flush the nutrients out of the plant. I mean flushing the leftover residual nutrients, salt based buildup from my medium out onto the bottom of the floor and clean it up that way. The whole goal of this is to make sure that the plant doesn't have excess food to eat up, continuing to try to stack onto itself. If you can make it so that the plant is hungry and starving, you're going to get my personal experience is you'll notice a greater terpene profile in your plant. It'll taste better when you smoke it after and only a proper cure. Now, that being said, I'm not saying you can't go pluck a fresh one off, set it on the counter for a day or two, let it do a quick dry, throw it in your bowl and smoke it, and it won't taste delicious. But my personal experiences, and that could just be me from overfeeding, pushing the plants really hard, would be if I were to do that and I didn't have my flushing period, and I didn't let my plant burn off the excess food that's stored in its body, I'm going to have a bit of a harsher taste. Um, the odd time I'll notice that the actual bud won't burn properly; it stays black. As it's why I tend to try and stick with this flushing term. Um, like I said, I'm trying to flush the soil, the medium I'm using. Usually it's cocoa, uh, which already doesn't hold on to it too much, but it is nice to make sure it's reset because I will reuse this for next grow. After I let the root mass degrade a little bit with some enzymes eating at it, and then I will throw it back into a tote, let it sit, hit some recharge into it if I have it in hand. If not, I will just do a basic light feed of nutrients, let it soak in that for a little bit, then start fresh. So now we've done pretty much up to the flush period, and I will flush as long as needed until I think that plant is done. So when I say that plant is done, the seed package might say 8 weeks. The breeder might say 8.5 weeks. That plant, it can go 8 weeks, 8.5 weeks, 9 weeks. Hell, I've seen some plants that say 8 weeks go 10 weeks and actually really need it. Um, the best way to check is not the hairs in the plant. That's an older style of doing it. Not saying it's wrong, but I've noticed much higher success at a better test result with using either a jeweler's loupe or a digital microscope. You can hook them up to your phone, your laptop. Take your time, take a video, slowly go across the plant, check the trichomes on the bud itself, at the top of the plant, at the bottom of the plant, middle of the plant. What you're looking for is you know what, as very minimum clear trichomes as possible, but mostly all white or opaque with some amber. The more opaque they are to amber, like, okay, your opaque to amber ratio is going to dictate the kind of buzz it is, whether it's a head racy high or more of a couch locking, I'm not doing anything the rest of the afternoon high. The more amber trichomes you will have in you review when you check in your plant, the higher in CBN, yeah, CBN, it'll be, which is actually what makes you feel couch locked. If it's mostly all opaque, you'll get more of a, a head race high, a sativa stone, as I would so greatly put it. So the way that will work is it they'll go clear, white opaque, then they kind of get an amber color, and then they just degrade completely. I'll go for a 90% opaque to a 10% amber if possible. Usually, what it ends up being when I pick it is probably like 80% opaque, 75% opaque, we'll say, 5% clear, and the rest will be amber. So as it's hanging and drying, it's going to continue to ripen and mature because it is still exposed to air and whatnot, humidity. So it is going to have an effect on the plant. And it's also reducing its moisture content. I will dry my plant until it is roughly 9% moisture ratio. You can get what's it called? A wood moisture meter, I believe, at your local hardware store. They're a great little device to have. You just poke your bud and it'll tell you what percentage of moisture is in it. I've noticed the best to be, well, for my own personal preference, 9% moisture content. I have dried some out completely in the hanging process and then rehydrated it with some Bovita packs. But I do not cure with the Bovita packs. I will cure in an empty jar, burping it correctly. We'll get into this further in another episode, but I'm just going to say it. If you do over dehydrate your plant, you can save it. What's better than a Bovita pack is I would suggest when you chop your plant down, take a couple leaves from the plant that are nice, fresh, and healthy, put them in the freezer. When you go to dry it, when you're curing, if you notice the weed to be too dry, you can put that same leaf from the same cultivar in the jar. It'll suck the moisture from the leaf into the buds and keep the same kind of terpene profile, we'll say, in a aroma profile. If you use Bovita packs, I have noticed them to slightly take out some of the potency, not of the THC content, but of the smell. So I could have something that smells danker than all hell, nice skunky smell. Put the Bovita pack in, let it do its thing, open the jar, and it doesn't smell as I would like it anymore. It doesn't have that nice pungent smell. But if I leave it away from the Bovita pack for a day and a half in a plastic baggie, it will generally get the smell back. But Bovita packs and boost packs for me are a kind of a last resort. I try to keep some leaves on hand. That's a better practice I've generally noticed. Um, so we've done pretty much what I quickly went through flower stage. What I'll generally do, the drying stage, I will preferably take a whole plant, chop the bottom stem, and hang the whole plant. I do also have a multi-tier mesh drying rack. If I'm doing, if I know I'm gonna have another load of plants coming into that flower tent right away, I will use the hanger to save space for drying. The downside of this is you have to take it off. You have to buck it off the stalk itself. When I say buck, I mean leave a little. You have your bud, your stalk, and the branching that comes off the stalk itself to hold the bud. I will snip it flush with that stalk, so I have something to hold on to when I trim it. But I'm breaking it down. I'm not leaving it a whole huge branch here. The whole point of that mesh is to get air exposure around the entire bud. The downside of these drying racks is you have to constantly go down and rotate your buds, otherwise they will develop flat spots and they don't look as appealing. Not that this flat spot's going to injure or hurt the plant at all. It's already been chopped, it's done its life cycle, but it will just make it look not the greatest. You put all this time and effort into growing this plant, putting this effort in to make sure that it looks as best as you can, and then you're gonna let it get a flat spot at the end of it. I don't think so. Like I said, general rule of thumb is hang the whole plant upside down. I've seen people use drying racks in the sense of like actual closed drying racks and take branches off and hang this the whole branch. That works as well too. I have noticed personally it dries faster. And that's just because it doesn't have as much mass to that stock to keep moisture flowing through it. It just kind of has that one little stock to work with, and the one hole dries out and it goes away. So now we're gonna get into we've dried it for trimming. What I would like to do is in the next couple weeks, I'll have some trimming on my own to do. I'm gonna do a recording of that and how I do it, and we'll kind of get more into depth into that. I'll go over curing here, how I personally cure. So after my plant is fully dried to the moisture content level that I found acceptable, I will trim my weed, take all the sugar leaves off, any big petioles. I will break it down into small sections that I will put into a clean, sterilized glass jar. I will fill this jar 3/4 to about 80% full to make sure there's room for air, and I will seal it up. In the first hour, I will come downstairs, I will open the jar back up, and I will give it a little smell test. If it smells like ammonia or not like the cannabis smell that when it was growing, you might be too wet still. I would suggest pulling it out, letting it dry a little bit longer, and then putting it back in the jar. If you open it up and it just still smells like the weed that you put in there, seal it back up, let it sit for 2 hours. Come check it again. Repeat this process every time you do, adding an hour until you get to about 12 hours. After 12 hours of it sitting, and you can check it, and it's not going, we'll say sour on you. I will let it sit for a full 24 hours. Check it. When I check it the first 24 hours, I will have a baker sheet with some parchment paper. I will take the jar and I'll pour the buds out on the parchment paper, and whatever came out first goes in first. So I know cycling through what was in that jar, bottom and top, top and bottom. Then I will let it sit for another 48 hours. Do it again. Check it. And at this point now, it's going to be close to probably 4 days, 5 days of repeatedly burping it. After I can go 72 hours without having to open it, and I know it's not going to have the moisture content that it's going to go bad on me, I will let it sit for a week, open it up, check it again after a week, let it close, and after 2 weeks of it sitting, I won't open it again until I need it, until it's ready for me to consume or me to process for my patients. Because although I know I don't need to cure my weed for processing, I've noticed it a better taste for the hash if I do so. For those who don't know, I make bubble hash. Kind of just started doing it. I'm not the greatest at it, but I enjoy what I make, and that could just be my general personal bias. But I'm not claiming to be Purple Thumb emoji. He makes some killer stuff. So yeah, after I cure the weed and I have everything all cleaned up in my tent, I will start breaking everything down and make sure I have no light leaks. Whatever needs to be replaced has been going to get ordered and replaced. That's if I'm not doing a perpetual grow. If I'm doing a perpetual grow, there is no time for that. So I'll have to do my maintenance checks at pretty much every weekend. So for those who don't understand what I mean by perpetual grow, if I have multiple spaces where I'm vegging and growing, flowering plants, I will take plants from my veg side and put them on my flower side in a staggered cycle. So that every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month, depending on how you do it, I have a plant or two plants being harvested. Me and Cuz love it. I've kind of touched base on how we would do a 4-plant perpetual grow under the laws and regulations for Canada. That being said, if you have a medical license for consumption of cannabis, there are many websites for many doctors who can get your proper paperwork and apply for an ACMPR, extended plant count, to grow your own plants for you. A lot of places will give you the prescription for 25 plants to grow it by yourself for free. Um, yeah, it's just don't don't manipulate the system if you don't have to, in the sense of just be honest. Don't be a shitty person. If you need it and you're growing for no reasons, there shouldn't be an issue with that. If you don't need it, you're growing just for a cash crop, stop being a d-bag. There's other ways to make money. Go get an actual job in the cannabis community. There's lots of employment options in there. Um, so we've gone over the flower cycle, pretty much where I'm at. We've gone over the curate. If you have any questions, by all means, hit up chat and let me know what you're thinking. I'm by all means, open ears. Like I said, this episode wasn't kind of planned this way. I thought Cousin Love would be here, and I'm working on the fly here, so I hope it's going decently okay. I am slightly tired and a little bit baked. So, you never know how this is going to turn. I can watch, like, oh god. 99 grams a day, I smoke that. I'm not that aggressive, 99 grams a day. For plants, I content with my prescription. It's less than 100. We'll put it that way. So, seeing as I'm getting close to ending of this flower cycle, this whole grow was to determine what keepers I would pick out of this for my autopod hydroponic system. So people don't know. Oh, thanks. I try. I try for you guys. So what I have a 6 autopod system. I originally got a four pot autopod system. Yeah. From the Operation Grow show for trying that out, and I liked it so much I actually bought 2 more to add on to it. So now I have room for 6 plants to be run on an autopod system, which for those who don't know, it's gravity fed. It's gravity fed, so it doesn't need any more power. You just mix the newts. I know I can put a 5-gallon jug of water in there for veg cycle, and it'll just water for the week. And for flower cycle for 6 plants, it's just under 10 gallons. So I know I can. Where's Cusman? I don't know where he's at today. I'm here by myself. I tried getting a hold of him. I thought he mentioned he might be off this episode for work reasons, but I thought that was next week. So we're gonna find out. It's all the same. I'm trying my best, holding down the fort, but yeah, I've been busy with my job and family, so it's hard to plan for these shows and kind of keep it going. I'm working on the fly here. So with the autopod system, I will keep for sure my golden goat. I'm probably keeping the Storm Shadow. I like the way that's producing this round. My Scarlet Begonias, that one, it just kind of, it's pushing all the right buttons, even though it hasn't been treated the best way. It's doing great for me in a back corner plant. All the growers kind of know what I mean by back corner plant. There's a plant in the back corner that you could never always get to. Kind of gets mistreated, neglected, and this one's been doing really well as that plant. It's been, like I said, producing donkey dicks. I've enjoyed it very much so. I can't wait to smoke it. It's got kind of like a apple crumble smell to it. Nice freshly baked goods. I'm probably going to keep the dark hollow because I like the way the bud structure looks and how frosty it's getting. So we have, like I said, the golden goat, we have the storm shadow, we have the dark hollow. I'm probably going to keep the space forest, one of the phenos of that, because they both look decent, but one just kind of has been enjoying the heavy feeding versus the other one. The other one kind of It still looks photo friendly, but it's a 7 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10 like its sister. So we have spot for two more. I've debated keeping the 8K, but I don't want to kind of let that strain go because I have the breeding project. I would need to work with that, and I already have a lot of seeds of it from the original mother. So I'm very hopeful that I can find not the same plant, but something that hits the mark the same way it does to continue working with that breeding project. Obviously, I have to keep the CBD hash plant, but that's not going on a pot system. I will grow that in the veg and probably just put it into a little 1 gallon fiber pot and do it that way. The Dragon Punch, depending on how it smokes, I'm taking a cutting of it to hold it on the side, but depending on how it smokes, I will keep it or not. I It's not that it's been an issue. I noticed the plant structure itself isn't the best with these other ones. So if I do keep it around, it's gonna be stuck on hiatus for a while. And I like to kind of just not hold on to plants for 3 months at a time. The flower amount, even if I do veg them up that long, I do like to keep perpetually flowering plants out, and that one kind of overtook the one tent. So what do we got here? We got 17 minutes. It's actually flying by. I'm impressing myself. I give myself a pat on the back. Again, if you just want tune into the show, we have that giveaway going on Instagram. Find the post. It'll have a T&B enhancer bottle in the start. It's like a little video clip. Tag 5 friends. Follow Shooby Doo because I love it. The Grow for Show. And you'll be automatically entered. We'll be announcing the winners either next show or the show after. The first place prize winner for Canada will be a pack of Arise by Irish Genetics seeds. International entries are welcome, but we will not be sending beans of Irish Genetics across the border because they're hard enough to get into the border. Even though there's now apparently a new Canadian connection for that. If you're curious what it be, go check out Ross and Jeff's live stream from yesterday. He kind of touches base on it. But there is a prize for international contestants. It's a TMB box that I've kind of thrown together. It has enhancers, some refills, a long sleeve shirt for the grow, size large, because I'm assuming everyone's a large at this point because of GMOs. Oh, was my cross for Operation Grow? I did 3 crosses because one wasn't hard enough. So I did a female AK-39 to a Storm Shadow male. I also did a CBD hash plant to Storm Shadow, as well as did a female Storm Shadow to a male Storm Shadow. So that's kind of keep my seed stock going. On Operation Grow, I wasn't able to attend the last episode because of work obligations, but Pete was supposed to mention how we are going to be doing either giveaways of those seeds that we did, but people need to understand that these are just test your beans or not. You could be getting gold, you could be getting shit. We're just going to be brutally honest because, there's always some fuck ups in every family. If you have any questions for a plant about the crosses, let me know. I've got plenty of photos, and the plants still need to be shucked. I've started shucking them, but with new job and kids and the family and this, it's kind of been busy. That being said, this is our 15-minute warning for the end of the show. I'm gonna try and wrap everything up here. Any loose ends. Oh, sorry. Allergies are just whooping my ass. There's a cat attacking my side. So we have, like I said, I mentioned the giveaway. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up button. It helps us with the viewership. If you're not in live chat, I would suggest switching to live chat. It helps it drastically, gives you a better feel of the show. And also subscribe to the show if you haven't already. If you have, share it. Go on your Facebook, go on your Twitter, your Canna Buzz, copy the link, post it in there. Show your friends what you're watching. I appreciate it very much so. Because apparently, if we get enough people here, Cuz might come back. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Shots fired, Cuz. You're on call. So we have, like I said, I went over the flower, my general game plan for this, how I tend to stick to it. If you have an outdoor growing in Ontario right now or anywhere in Canada, tag Grow for Show. Let's see what you have going on. I have a few friends who have started their outdoor seasons a couple weeks now. They're always getting bushy, time for a trim. Um, they're mostly organic growers. I don't dabble with that too much. From your organic growing, buying a bag of living soil. I'm just saying, here's some water. No, not that I dislike organic growing. It's that I generally like to be a little bit more of a science nerd and control what I feed my plants. And if I'm going to do organic, I'm going to mix my own soil, and that just takes time and space that I do not have at this moment in time. Oh, sorry. The downside of doing live shows, you stretch, everyone sees it, you can't edit it out. Oh. So, that's what I wanted to ask the chat, and a brain fart there. With this grow coming to a close, I do have other irie beans that I need to pop, and I'm not sure which next batch I'm going to do to kind of fill some slots. So, if you've grown any irie genetics, or if you've grown any genetics that you really would recommend, post them in the chat. Let me know what you're growing. Let me know what you would suggest for growing. My personal preference is indica, but I do have patients that need sativas or CBD crosses, and maybe if I have it, I'll do it for the seeds of seed the crop series. Because kind of have it planned. So what we're kind of thinking about doing is a germinate seeds, weekly updates on the plants, kind of crop it all together. We've kind of mentioned about possibility of getting a little camera to watch, time lapse it, just have a group together. But these are all just kind of works in process. Got to mix up soil like a month ago. See, for plants, that's why I use Coco. I buy a big bag, keep it in a tote. Actually, I shouldn't say buy a big bag. I keep it in a tote from previous grows. I let it, Canna has an enzyme product that works wonders for breaking down roots and kind of let it soak in there for a little bit, and they just do the thing. And I've bought one bag. I think I bought the first bag of cocoa when the first season Operation Grow happened, so season 3. And I think I bought a small bag to top up from cuttings, and that's it for 2 years, 3 years. So it's been lasting me a while. It's a bit different. It's a little less forgiving than soil, where you can have your pH kind of go up and down a little bit, and you don't have to give it as much food, or you have to give it more food. I've noticed because it just needs it. In the sense of the peat moss and say a pro mix is going to hold on to the nutrients a lot better than a cocoa fiber is going to do. Cocoa fiber is going to say, hey, guess what? It's coming and it's going. Its job is to hold the roots, not food. Well, guys, heading on the 50-minute mark. And, I think that's all I got today. My throat's kind of raspy. I'll have a straight here. I act now. I can go outside and have a quick hoop for the end of the show. And catch you guys on the YouTube with you guys. So, like I said, I like to let me know how you're enjoying living soil. I got a few friends asking about it, and like I said, it's not personally my wheelhouse, but if you have a store-bought brand that you're willing to recommend, I'll gladly give it a try. Maybe you can make me a believer of the organic taste better. Because as of so far, I hate to push the months here. I haven't tasted the difference, guys. And I've been smoking for a while. That being said, I want to say thank you for everyone watching the show. I appreciate it very much. You hanging out, taking your time of your day. Nice, nice, Aldi. Starstruck is actually in my jar that I haven't popped yet, and lemons might be being put to the front of the list. But like again, I'd like to say thank you for tagging along, watching the show. Uh, Thanks for hitting the thumbs up, subscribe, share the show, enter the contest, follow Scooby Doo on Instagram because I love it. I'll even advertise for them, and the Grow for Show. The next couple weeks we do have some, I wouldn't say big news coming up, but there's some news coming up for the show, and I'm excited to share it with you. So stay tuned. Good things are coming. Again, thank you very much for joining, and I appreciate the hell of you being here. Cheers.